Purim on the list of Jewish holidays would probably not be ranked at the top. Right? So if we want to think about holidays, from most rabbis or cantors, they'd probably say Yom Kippur. That's got to be the top, right? That's the one the majority of the people come. Rosh Hashanah, right next to it. And then you start going down. Probably I would skip to Passover. And then you start going to like Sukkot or Shavuot. And if you're a kid in the society, Hanukkah is going to be like, that's probably even going to be above. We'll ask if the kids were in this room. That probably would be above even, certainly Yom Kippur. But Purim, it kind of gets lost. It's different. And Purim is very different in a lot of different ways. First of all, did you notice in the Purim story, God is nowhere to be found? It's crazy to think we have a Jewish holiday where there is no God. God is hidden. That's part of the reason why we dress up, actually. Hidden underneath in the subscript. The reason why we are saved is not Mordecai or Esther or anyone there. It's because God intervened. But it's not written in the text that way. In addition, Purim is a diaspora holiday. It takes place in Persia, the great empire of Persia. We don't know exactly when, but sometime, in the 6th century BCE, likely. In the center, in Shushan, the center of the kingdom, is Jerusalem mentioned once? No. Is there any sense of us being connected to a place? No. It's a diaspora holiday. And that makes it extremely different. On Purim, you're allowed to work. No matter whether you're Orthodox or liberal or secular, whatever you are, in Israel, life goes on. It's a regular day with people dressing up and being a little crazy, and fireworks if you're walking down the street there. But all these things make Purim a little different. And certainly you can understand from the rabbi's point of view, they might feel that Purim should be, we're going to give the congregations permission to celebrate, but we're going to be over there. Because Purim, you make fun of the leadership. It's this kind of uncomfortable holiday. Like if you're in a Jewish school, this is when you can kind of poke fun at your teachers. Things are just like, it's fun, but it's kind of uncomfortable too. There's something about it that's like that. I mean, what really always got to me, by the way, because I have a hard time with booing. We were talking about the curses, and I realized it was really getting to me, the groggers and that sense of booing Haman. I was like, well, maybe, Haman's still a human being, right? He tried to kill us, but I mean, I have such forgiveness in my heart. I can't even fully embrace like the booing. It kind of like gets to me, and in some ways maybe that's the point.
Well, that was in last year's
script.
script.
I know, that was my favorite script last year because we had Mordecai and Haman making up.
Well, we also found out that Haman was like the Wizard of Oz. He was like some kind of a hapless character that got blamed.
Right, he got blamed. Haman wasn't really even the main culprit there. Yeah. So that was my way. That was my penitence, my tshuva to Haman over the years. But interestingly, so you might think that, but actually the rabbis elevate Purim to the highest possible level in the Talmud, higher even than Yom Kippur. And they do this because they take a couple of verses, obscure verses from chapter 9, which is at the end of the Megillah, and they give them meaning that's not in the text, but that makes Purim the highest holiday. So first, I'll start with the earlier verse. which it says here, Jews accordingly assumed as an obligation that which they had begun to practice and that Mordecai prescribed for them. So this is among a whole list of what you're supposed to do. We learn about giving gifts to the poor, Mishloach Manot, reading the Megillah, all these kind of things, and they're committing themselves to doing this. But the rabbis read this in a very unusual way because they have a real problem. For the rabbis, personal choice is very important because if you can't choose, if human beings aren't given free will, then none of the agreements that we have with God are valid. You can't coerce someone into any sort of agreement. And so they have a real problem when it comes to Exodus and the giving of the Torah. So if you remember, the Torah was given Mount Sinai, lightning, thunder, clouds, and they believe, based on what it says tachat, that the people were there, tachat hahar. Tachat har means under the mountain. Now, technically, it probably means like right in front of the bima here. That's sort of what they were. But the rabbis say, no, God actually held the mountain up over their heads and said, if basically, without saying it, if you don't agree to what's written in the Torah, this mountain will stop hovering and will come down on you, right? So it's a serious threat. Can you agree to anything under that? So they start looking. Where is it that the Jews actually agreed to the principles in the Torah where they had free will? And they point to this verse in the book of Esther because they read it that basically that we make a second covenant at that time without any coercion. So they put Mount Sinai and Purim, they connect them. And this is the highest occasion. On Purim is when we agree to be with God, basically. That's when we make our covenant. Number 2, and this one is remarkable. I remember learning this when I was a child. I love this. So there's a verse at the end of chapter 9. It says, consequently, these days are recalled and observed in every generation, by every family, every province, and every city. And these days of Purim shall never cease among the Jews. Shall never cease among the Jews. So amazingly, the rabbis say, never cease. That means even in the days of the Messiah. So when the Messiah comes, they won't be celebrating any other holiday but Purim. And I love that because also Purim is known as the upside down holiday where, your expectations are turned over. We thought we were going to be destroyed and we celebrate because we were saved. And it's joyous and it's relaxed. And that is how I do imagine what the afterlife should be. So I love that they said, but I never knew until I was researching for tonight that it actually comes from this one verse where it says, Purim shall never cease. We're still doing it, right? 2,000 years later. So here we have this holiday, this strange holiday, which fits completely outside of all the other holidays in our tradition, and yet is put right in the center. The rabbis knew how good it was. And I think they understood, especially since the rabbis are also writing in the diaspora after the destruction of the temple during terrible times. They understood we would need a holiday where we could just be ourselves, where we could imagine the day where we wouldn't be destroyed, where we would celebrate, where everything would work out. Because Purim is the holiday that we most relate to. Most of our history, we have not been under, in Israel, under our own control. Only, a few hundred years, really at most, out of 4,000 years, we've had that sense. Purim is the holiday that's going to touch our hearts. And I love that. And I love that we celebrate that. We do that, right? Don't you think at Shir Shalom, we embrace that? So now you know the real heart of Purim, that Purim, even in the time of the Messiah, will still be celebrated when we don't need any other holidays. And also is the reason why we're Jewish, is because of Purim. How wonderful. So when you come on Monday night, which I hope you're coming because they've worked very hard. We want this whole place filled. I hope you'll really have a sense that this is not just fun. This is really important, what we're doing. And I think today, when this has been one of the hardest periods to be Jewish these last few years, we need to be able to celebrate and be serious. May we have that time, and may this be a true Purim for us this year. We say, Amen.